Good morning, Debbie.
It is time. Let me switch this around a little bit. So good morning, everybody, and welcome to our formation hour today, where we're going to see a presentation that I cut a lot out of, so some things may seem a little erratic in the presentation. And then we'll hear from Laura Combs, who's here with us, and Laura's going to go through what our proposal will look like if we choose to go in the direction of going solar here at St. Anne's. And then Laura will also be available to answer any question within her scope about our particular approach. Just come around and I think that'll do. Laura, is that all right with you? Did I do that all right?
Yes, that sounds great. And you probably didn't have to edit to make it erratic, because sometimes I can go off on tangents. So it's all good.
All right, friends. So let's just take a moment in prayer. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us pray. Lord Jesus Christ, at the beginning of creation, God looked over all of it and called it good and entrusted its care to us. Help us be good stewards of our resources, to not only love our neighbor as ourselves, but to love the planet too. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I'm going to ask the folks who are joining us online to mute. And after a year and a half, I still feel like I have to say this. I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody see that?
I'm very pleased this morning to welcome Laura Combs to speak to us about implementing solar technology. Laura is Eagle Solar and Lights Business Development Director in North Carolina. She has a master's degree in urban and regional planning with a specialty in environmental planning. Laura began working to protect the planet when she was 8 years old and has had amazing experiences as a former government and nonprofit employee, working to recover the endangered Florida manatee and to protect the ecosystems of the Florida Keys. She is very aware of the need to maintain slim overhead and maximize funds, and she is grateful for the opportunity to help people to reduce their carbon footprint and utility bills via solar energy installation. I know that I have learned a lot from Laura about the solar process, and I am very excited and thankful to have her here to speak with us today. So Laura, welcome, and I will turn it over to you.
Morning, everyone, and thank you, David. And I'm so grateful to be here. And before I dive in as Eagle Solar, I just want to take a moment as my private self, my personal self, to thank you for all of your amazing work that you're doing. Just to hear all the wonderful ways that you all are working to make our state, our country a better place. I'm so grateful to hear. And that'll, I guess, come through a little bit more as I dive into the presentation. So thank you for your work. And now I will become Eagle Solar and Light. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen. Okay, very good.
Whoops.
And let's see. Okay, so just a quick outline of what we're going to be talking about, and about us, a little bit about Eagle, a little bit about solar energy and how it works, or how production works. The question of, the solar rebates and leasing and how that works. So Eagle Solar and Light, we are what's known as a turnkey solar installer, and we take it from the very beginning of the process, the proposal, and then for clients who are working with us all the way through, helping them with the Duke energy process, and we do the permitting and the installation, and all the way through to helping with the Duke rebate. And we offer cash purchases. Some of our clients self-finance in that cash purchasing process. And we're also able to offer the lease in the Duke Energy and Duke Progress territories. And I will be emphasizing that a lot. The Duke Energy, Progress, and Carolinas territories are the leasing territories, and they're also the Duke Energy rebate territories. But we will work on how to serve folks outside of those territories as well. So we have 3 sectors we work in, and my primary focus is nonprofit tax exempt sectors. And we also work in the commercial sector, and we don't go after or seek residential clients, but sometimes they come to us. But the nonprofit is our bread and butter. That's my niche. That's where I'm spending most of my time. So overview of solar energy. It's a grid-tied system, meaning that when the grid is up and running, solar is up and running. And when the grid goes down, solar also goes down, because you cannot have a building producing energy, sending that energy to the grid while folks are trying to repair the grid. So it's grid tied. When the grid's up, solar's up. When the grid's down, solar's down, unless battery storage is included in the system. So a grid tied system is the most common installation, and rooftop is the least costly. And as I said, it can't operate while the grid's down. When installing solar energy, net metering is part of that process, and meaning that when a system is producing more energy than the building needs, it is sending energy out to the utility grid, and that organization is getting credits to use that energy at a later time, or use that equivalent at a later time. So the bill is reduced later on if you're overproducing. And the panels that are used are typically warranted for 25 years. Inverters are 12-year warranty, but in our company's approach, and many other companies' approaches, is to purchase an extended warranty, include that into the budget, so inverters are warranted out for 20 years. So the way this works is that the sun shines, the energy hits the solar panels, which are again warranted for 25 years as far as production. The panels produce DC current. Well, your building uses AC current. So the energy goes through what's called an inverter, and the inverter converts it to AC energy and sends it over to your building. If the building does not have enough demand for the energy at that point being produced, that energy heads back over to the grid through what's called a bi-directional meter. And this is where the meter takes into account that you're sending energy to the grid and will give credit for the energy you're producing. And off it goes to the grid. If the panels, let's say it's a rainy day, or there's an event at the building and the electricity demands are greater, if the panels are not able to meet the electricity needs, then the electricity comes from the grid through the bi-directional meter, and you're billed as you always have been, and that electricity heads over to your building. So Eagle Solar is the first company approved by the Utilities Commission to offer solar leasing, and we're the only company with executed leases. So solar energy and what makes it work. What is a good building for solar? And I'm going to cover that with an overview of some of the systems that my company has installed. And a couple of factors that make solar very favorable is to have a south-facing roof, for example. And St. Cyprian's Episcopal Church, even though this is not a south-facing picture, they have a southeast-facing church, southeast-facing roof. This is a system that we are just finishing up the installation on, and it's gorgeous picture. Just got this picture this morning, so I was madly entering it into this presentation. But this system will be up and running in November. Duke Energy's had a minor slowdown on its end, so St. Cyprian's has that kind of south-facing roof. The next 5 are all leased systems. Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Raleigh, that's a flat roof system, and flat roof is, excuse me, pretty available for solar as far as having the sun's interaction with the panels, which is what we're looking for on a flat roof. And you can't maybe see it so well, but it's called a ballasted system, and it's held down by concrete, which you can also see here at Temple Beth Or. that our installer Derek is standing on. And so the systems that are on flat roofs are held down by concrete blocks. So the church's roof, we want to make sure that the roof can support that kind of additional weight of the actual photovoltaic system, as well as the blocks that are needed to hold it down. Woods Charter School, another leased system, flat roof. Flat roofs are great, also produce very well. Minimal shading, no to minimal shading is important. Another factor that makes solar workable, especially from a leasing perspective, is that the system is large enough. Like all products, it's kind of like volume discount pricing. The larger the system, the lower the cost per unit, so to speak. So we like to see at least a 20 kW, 20 kilowatt system, and also a favorable utility rate. Utility rates come in many different factors, and I'll show you in just a couple minutes on a utility bill slide, but some rates have more expensive electricity. So a church that's on small general service is paying more for its electricity than a larger church on large general service. So solar offsets more expensive electricity for small general service folks, and that makes solar's payback better. So the North Carolina solar rebate, that is related to House Bill 589. And again, it happens only in Duke Energy Progress and Duke Energy Carolinas territories. And the rebate's maximum size is $75,000, and it's based on the size of the system. The smaller the system, the smaller the rebate. The larger the system, the greater the rebate. This program ends in December 31st, 2022. And that's very important to keep in mind. In order to reserve a rebate amount, you have to have an idea of what your maximum system size could be, and feel comfortable that you have a solar provider, and then go ahead and make what's not you, but your provider will make an interconnection request with Duke Energy, and that will reserve the rebate amount. From that point forward, so let's say somebody reserves their rebate amount December 1st, 2022. For all purposes, they'll have until December 1st, 2023 to install that system. But you want to be sure to get that rebate reservation in before the end of 2022. And then the nonprofit rebate is heavily underutilized. And that's really unfortunate because it is the greatest amount of rebate. That rebate amount offsets about a third of the cost of a system. If you're going to lease, that rebate amount helps to keep the leasing cost less than the lease payment, the leasing cost less than the utility savings. And I'll show you that in just a moment. And to give you an idea of how valued the rebate is in the residential and commercial sectors, it used to be a first come, first serve basis to get the rebate amount. So people would apply it with Duke Energy. They'd wait until the very first moment the window opens and everybody would just hit apply, and it would be wild and the system would crash and it would be a mess. And the rebate amounts are used up in less than 3 minutes in the commercial and residential sectors because they are that big a deal. And those folks get less generous rebates than the nonprofit sector does. So if this rebate amount is not used up by the end of 2022, it will roll over to the commercial and residential sectors, and it will be used up instantly in January 2023. That said, Duke has moved to a lottery system so that the system no longer crashes and all kinds of chaos happens when it was that first come, first serve way. So January 2023, nonprofit rebate money will be used up if we can't find a way to get more nonprofits to take advantage of it now. So the way leasing works, only in Duke Energy, Carolinas and Progress territories. And lessors have to be approved by the North Carolina Utilities Commission. And Interfaith Power and Light is going to have an article that gives links to how to see who's offering leases and what leases they have executed, because as a lessor, you're supposed to report your leasing to the Utilities Commission because they do provide oversight to leasing. And there is a cap on the number of leases, and we're not even close to meeting that cap. So it's really not a concern, but that's one of the things that House Bill 589 did. So not sure how other folks are handling leasing, because as far as we can tell, we're the only ones doing it. We were the first approved by the Utilities Commission to offer leases, and the only company with executed leases. And the way we've structured our program, we have a down payment that is equal to the expected rebate by Duke Energy. And that down payment is paid over milestones. So basically, it's a temporary draw from the budget, and then it is replaced or backfilled once the rebate check is issued. And the rebate check is issued about 4 weeks after the solar energy system goes live with Duke Energy. The leases can be length of 10 to 25 years. For folks leasing for 15, 20, 25 years, they generally just want to lease a system and not purchase. So the rebate, as I said, comes about 4 weeks after a system is installed. They are also very generously, I'm so excited, my latest client I'm working with is actually Reverend Barber and his nonprofit, Rebuilding Broken Places. So the first steps in solar, the first step involves a year of utility bills and pictures of the utility meter. And so any solar provider is going to look at a couple of things on your bills, and we need to see the kilowatt hours, because we figure out how much you're using over the course of a year so that we don't put too many panels on the roof, in our opinion, or in my opinion.
Okay. So said that it was chopped up, and because when Laura said that she could join us for this particular conversation, I didn't want to go too much further into that, because we know information now about St. Anne specifically. So at this time, I'm going to invite Laura, and you, I've made you a co-host if you want to share anything. Okay, so friends, please welcome Laura Combs, and let's hear the possibility for St. Anne's.
Okay, thank you, Ginny, and thank you for reaching out, and thank you everybody for giving me this opportunity to share possibilities with solar for St. Anne's. And I'm a pretty interactive presenter, so if you have questions, feel free to ask at any time. Just stop me and I'll do my best to answer them. And if you want to hold it to the end, that's fine as well. So I will share my screen, and let's see. And hopefully you are seeing the company logo in my picture down there. Is that correct?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, great. So Ginny has a copy of this that she can share, with y'all. And so some of it I'm just going to kind of go through, because not really go through because it's not too exciting, and you can look at it, as you guys want to. But real quick, my company was founded about 5.5 years ago in Birmingham, Alabama. That's our headquarters, and we have a Durham, North Carolina office. And we've been here almost 4 years now. And we serve all of North Carolina, and you saw more about us in the background. But, we've been here, we're going to be here to stay, we're growing, we're excited. And the number of nonprofits is finally picking up who are interested in moving forward with solar. So thank goodness. So this is just our cover page. That guy right there is the one who designs the systems, Joe Bennett. And you can read more about testimonials and mission and all that other stuff later. The important stuff is, how does a solar proposal get put together, and what does it mean for you? And so I have a copy of St. Anne's bills and was able to enter those into a program called Energy Toolbase. And you can see here that, I should put my little cursor on, I can't. You can see that I put your bills here, so you can go look through what you guys normally are using pre-COVID.
Laura,
I'm sorry.
Jenny, can you click on the plus sign at the top there? That might make it a little bit bigger so folks can see it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, better? Good.
All right.
So you guys are on that expensive utility rate, small general service, and that is determined by the amount of demand or that initial push or draw by the church for electricity. So your small general service, that's the more expensive rate. And we anticipate a utility escalation rate of about 2.5% because House Bill 951 was just passed, and that is a revamp or a refresh of how North Carolina handles energy management through the Utilities Commission and primarily with Duke Energy. And that bill has the ability, it goes in 3-year cycles, and Duke in the first year, with everything has to be done with Utility Commission approval. But in that first year, they right now legislatively do not have a cap on the amount they can raise utility rates. And then in years 2 and 3, it is capped at 4%. And then it recycles back to uncapped 4%, 4%. So normally we look at a utility bill escalation rate of about 2%. We nudged it up to 2.5% because it is the intention of the legislature for there to not be price shock, although they don't really identify what that is. So 2.5% is probably a fine enough escalation. It might be a little conservative, and I sadly don't have a crystal ball. So your utility bill is just over $7,000 a year right now, and you can see your kilowatt hour usage, which you'll see shortly. Solar will offset about 60% of your usage. So you can look at, I'm sorry?
Someone asked how much, and I said 60%.
Yes. So we install, I'm going to go down to this part. The designer, Joe, created a system that maximized your roof space that's available on the flat roof, which that's a great place for solar. It allows the panels to produce strongly. And he had designed 93 Astronergy panels, and that requires 2 inverters. And these are strong producing panels and producing the savings that, is going to make an impact on your bills. And so the system size is 38 kW DC, and it'll be 38 kW AC. When Duke Energy calculates your rebate and what you would apply for, we are able, with the inverters we're using, to make AC, which is what they're looking at, equal to the DC. So we will maximize your rebate. And the kilowatt hour generation, as you can see, is just over 47,000 in the first year. And on this graph here, the blue bars are your energy usage, and the orange is what solar is producing. And you'll see that it's a pretty well fit system. And often what we see in March, April, and May is that a solar installation will overproduce. Every June 1st, Duke Energy takes those overproduction credits and says, thank you, we're wiping your slate clean, and you have now donated energy to the grid for Duke Energy, and they will not compensate you. So the system is sized such that you're producing overproducing very little and not giving away much free to Duke, and still having a significant impact on your consumption and your utility bill. So the rebate, the rebate with this size system is $28,500. So if you all decided to purchase, the cost would be just over $65,000. But that said, the lease often, and in your case, is more economically strong than a direct purchase. Some organizations decide they're going to purchase, and that's just what they're going to do, even if leasing does make more sense in the long term because of time value of money. Today's money has more buying power than it does 15 years from now, 20 years from now. So to pay all that money up front is giving powerful money to obtain solar, as where leasing allows a flat line cost, and that money, in a sense, by year 20, your lease cost is less economically a draw on you than it would be today. So $3,800 in year 20 has less buying power than it does today. So leasing often becomes more advantageous.
Laura, can you pause right there? I think there's a question.
Yeah,
Yes.
I just want to make sure I understand the numbers. So you said if it's bought outright at 65,000, the rebate is 28,000. So does that 65,000 get reduced by the rebate, or is that in a,
That's the net.
that's the net, or is the 65 the net?
The total cost is $93,733.
Thank you very much. I apologize for not pointing out the total cost.
All right,
And if
thank
you hear banging, that's my silly dog's tail hitting the floor.
I'm sorry, Laura, there's another question from Stan.
Yes.
Yeah, hi, Laura. Is the lease cost fixed over the term of the lease, or does the lease cost vary over time?
So it has been fixed for every lease. I think there's one where it has got an escalator on it. And the reason that was not my project, but I want to say that had to do with a change in equipment cost, and they didn't want to increase their lease payment up front. So we have flexibility in how we do it. And we have a leasing partner called Sunwell. And so we start with a paradigm or a model, and you'll see your leasing in just a moment. And then that's the starting point to find the best fit for our client. But every lease that I've delivered has been fixed over the term of the lease.
Yeah, that was where I was going with my question, because the idea is that even though there would be an escalator in utility cost, if you have a fixed cost lease, that makes the long-term expenses more predictable for the parish.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the goal. As I said, it's only been a part of leasing one time, and it wasn't my project, and I'm sorry I don't have the details on it. But
No
yeah,
worries.
to have that reliability is very important. I agree.
And the basic idea, just to and maybe you're going to get to this. So the basic idea is that you're not paying any more and may well be paying less of the overall net cost for electricity than you would without the panels in place.
Exactly. So we will dive over to that in just a second. So here's another graphic on the right, this round chart, and you can see that solar offsets about 60% of your utility requirements. And your utility bill is just about $7,200 a year. After solar, it would be about $3,400 with a savings of almost $3,800. And these are all estimates because, you know, for example, if we have a cloudy month, that could, you know, throw solar production off. If Duke raises its rates higher than 2.5%, then you could have greater savings. So these are all estimates. And you can see here's that March, April time when everybody, you know, windows are open, for example, heating demands are down, there's really no cooling demands. Solar is producing more because, you know, we're having longer, sunnier days. And so the overproduction begins. And so the overproduction in March and April really amounts to about $80 and $58 of your total charge, because you've got to factor into account lighting and this other category here. So as far as the energy overproduction, it's about $103.81, but subtract the other category and you have very little overproduction at this point, which is a great situation to be in. That said, some folks just don't care, and they say just pack on as much solar as Duke will let us, but we couldn't pack any more on your building if we wanted to. So here we are. So here's some metrics, and then you'll see the lease payment in just a minute. The internal rate of return for leasing is higher, as you can see, at almost 15% versus almost 6%. Net present value for leasing on a 25-year lease is higher than it is for a cash purchase. And again, keeping in mind that the panels have a production guarantee over for 25 years. So that 25-year lease term is in good alignment with that. The payback period to purchase is about 15 years, but with leasing, it's just over a year. Usually we try and hit the year, but because you guys are farther away from us and we've got some travel costs associated, that impacted that positive cash flow in year one approach. So total payments, cash purchase was $93,733. Lease payments over 25 years would be $128,000. Here's the rebate at $28,500. And then the net payments, you can see $65,000 and $99,000. And the same, obviously the utility bill savings would stay the same at about $152,000 over 25 years. Hopefully savings more, because I don't know how Duke is going to be able to always have 2 to 2.5% rates, because the utility grid is stressed right now and is unable to receive any more utility scale solar. So the grid has to be upgraded. They've got some serious upgrade costs coming, and they still have to deal with the coal ash issue. So the lease payment, and you'll see the lease cost in just a moment, but the monthly payment is $317. So you guys can check out the cash flow analysis at your convenience, but it's basically the cost minus the lease payment. And then it's a running tally of when you have utility bill savings eating into the negative amounts caused by your initial purchase. But the lease payment, we have a lease payment at $3,800. Your first year electricity bill savings are almost $3,800, and maybe they will be $3,800. Maybe they'll be $3,700. This is our best estimate. So you can see that we're anticipating a negative $17 outcome the first year, but then with that $3,800 payment, maintaining a flat, steady state over 25 years, you can see that the utility bill savings are increasing as your lease payment stays the same. So you can see the running increases over here in these two columns. So again, the net present value is positive. The internal rates of return are better than a cash purchase. We've got the 2.5% utility escalator. And one thing that may have an impact down the road is if we get the Build Back Better legislation through. And this changes every single week. So I hesitate to even say anything. 2 weeks ago, it wasn't supposed to have an impact for nonprofits until 2024. And now the talk is 2022. It changes maybe even more than once a week, but we get a weekly update. So if that change occurs, the investment tax credit will be higher, which will allow our leasing partner to offer a more favorable leasing term, hopefully. And if a nonprofit decided to purchase the system, the investment tax credit is expected to go to 30%. And for nonprofits, you guys can't take advantage of the tax credit, but they're looking at direct pay to nonprofits. So the Duke Energy rebate pays for about 1/3 of the system, and then 30% direct pay from federal government would account, so for 60% of the system. So there are different metrics, and hopefully this Build Back Better plan will move forward soon so we can get our feet on the ground. So your leasing assumptions could change, hopefully more favorably, or if you guys, decide you want to purchase, it could be a much easier purchase. Oh, and so with leasing, one of the other benefits with leasing is that the operations and maintenance of the system is included with the lease term. And included with that is we come out every year and inspect and do preventative work on it. So if wiring starts to become stressed at year 7, we're going to be there to be on top of that, take care of it, keep everything running smoothly. If the inverter gets cranky, and that does happen every now and then we just send a truck out and we go take care of it. So all the operations and maintenance is included with the system. And then if folks decide at the end of leasing that they want to own the system, the purchase price at year 26 would be about $4,600 is our, what we're projecting. And you can see that the system will produce, it's expected to produce out to year 30. So, $4,600 for another $30,000 in savings and production could be, something that you might want to consider. That said, by year 25, the technology is going to be vastly different. And our leasing partner does not charge to have the system removed. And you could either purchase a new system, hopefully components will be cheaper at that point. So you might decide, oh, we're just going to purchase by the time this lease is over. Or we're done with solar and we're never going to do it again. And so it would just be taken off your system or off your roof. So you can enter into a new lease agreement, you can purchase the system, or you can be done with solar completely. So that's what happens at the end of the lease. And then our leasing partner also, I had this question for the first time the other day, was asked, well, what if we decide we want to be done with leasing and we want to own the system in year 15? So then, the end of term buyout would increase significantly and our leasing partner would provide those calculations for you. But it really does make sense to let the lease run out further, if that makes sense.
Laura, there's a question in the room.
Yes.
I was wondering about service if you purchase. Do you have service agreements then if you purchase?
Yes, great question. So we handle the first year of service as part of the purchase. And then we offer our service agreements in 5-year chunks. And for your guys, so, and I can't speak, our minimum, right now, our minimum service agreement price is for $500 a year. And so, it is more expensive. I mean, leasing really does make it more worthwhile. And then we anticipate like a 1.5% increase every 5-year chunk, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
So any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Technology on these panels is changing rapidly. Are we stuck with the same technology during the terms of the lease? Or can we perhaps do a technology upgrade at a point during the lease?
So yes, you are correct. And yes, the leases will identify this technology and it will run the term of the lease. If you wanted to do an upgrade, and I can, they call it a termination schedule, I can ask our leasing partner to provide a termination schedule. And because if you say 15 years out want to upgrade, well then yes, there needs to be a path to do that. And hopefully at that point, we will also have systems in place to handle, and this is the environmental planner in me talking, so just take it for what it's worth. But to pull a system off while it's still operating optimally, then that means what do we do with the waste of those panels? And right now, the country is not equipped. There's not a market for that type of recycle reuse. Although that said, I was just made aware, and one of our partners has created a tracking for still functional panels to be donated. But this is all so brand new right now still, because really the original panels are just getting to the end of their lifespan now. There's not a market to handle them. So, we'll have that termination schedule, but also it's about, in my opinion, making the best use of equipment that is still functional. And hopefully in 10, 15 years, we'll be able to handle that recycle, not my company, but our country, handle that recycle, that reuse, and, we'll be able to move through technology changes and make those improvements easily. So, we will be here to work with folks and be flexible. And I would say that as the only lessor still in North Carolina, it's been an interesting journey because our lease product wasn't as good when we started as it is now, because we've had to learn and break new ground. And we're grateful for all the folks who have gone on the journey with us. And in the case, the question you just asked, we would have to partner and move through that journey together as well.
Laura, is it possible to stop sharing your screen and we
Oh,
can
yes,
have a conversation?
surely. I'm sorry. Thank you.
No, thank you. And I know Stan's got a question. So Stan,
Yes, Laura, hi. Is there any kind of projected degradation rate for the production of energy by the panels themselves?
Yes, and these panels degrade at about 0.5% a year.
Okay, thank you.
And that's a great question. Were you, when I first came on, were you the gentleman who was talking about his solar installation he had gotten at his home?
That is correct.
Okay, very good. And that's working out well for you?
Yes, it is. I chose to purchase rather than to lease, partly because I could take advantage of the tax credit, which made a big difference. I was one of those people who was not able to get in the first 3 minutes, and so lost out on the residential rebate. So what you said is exactly right, and that's been a source of some grief. Do you anticipate there being any issue with entry into the nonprofit reserve between now and the end of 2020, or is it possible that could get oversubscribed?
Right now, it is not oversubscribed, and is it possible? Yes. You know, I thought there was a risk of it being oversubscribed, and I'm trying to remember if you guys are Duke Carolinas or Duke Progress. But for example, Buncombe, Asheville, they last year, and we were finished second on this bid, sadly. They had like 26 projects they put forward, and we thought that that was just going to crush the rebate in that territory, and it didn't. And I'm not sure why, and I don't have time to track it. So, you know, the money's still there and it's still not being used. But you know, Charlotte just put a couple of projects forward. Asheville, Buncombe is going forward with 4 more. So if these municipalities really start applying for the rebate, or if that approach grows, then that will impact the ability for churches or, you know, other public service nonprofits to take advantage. And I will jump up and down and yell and say, hey, this is coming. You know, if you think you're going to go solar, you need to take advantage of it.
Well, that's why I asked the question, because I anticipated that when I got my residential system installed, and my installer actually guaranteed that if I didn't get the rebate, they would pay it, which they have so far not delivered on. But that's another story.
I would like to invite Jack Peyton Travers. He's got his hand up for a question. You're muted, Jack.
Yeah, I have just a concern that the roof on the present structure where you're planning to install these panels is at this point, it's got to be 50 years old, right? I don't know when the roof was last replaced. And you put a system up there, and then there are problems with the roof because of its age, not necessarily your installation. And how does one deal with that? I have a sense in a lot of residential construction, you're putting a new roof on at the same time that you're installing the solar panels. But that's not something we're talking about, I don't think. So I just raise those questions.
Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, that was one of my concerns, is one, the placement, and 2, the construction of what we're putting on top of it.
Yeah. So Laura, can you speak to that some?
So yes, great questions. And before we do any, you know, placement, we would go ahead and do a site visit. And please forgive me, and Jenny, maybe you told me this. I've been speaking with a lot of churches, but that the roof, yours was not the 2019 replaced roof. Like that, the flat roof is 50 years old.
Yeah. It
Oh
was
my goodness.
1967.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I did not ask you that question, and I apologize. So
Talking about the wood. I think the substructure is what we're talking about.
Right.
But I don't, It has to,
It
the
has to
shingles
be.
have to have been redone.
Something's been done.
Yeah.
No flat roof's gonna last 50 years
Yeah,
without being
but
rebooted.
Bogdos
not
now
here in
probably
Yeah,
would have a
the
better idea.
wisdom holder of that information is not with us today.
Okay, I feel better because I thought, oh my goodness, I don't know how your roof is not leaking. If that, because it looks to me like it's a TPO membrane roof.
We've had issues.
So has there been a site evaluation to determine whether we'd have to cut down trees or not?
No, let me finish the roof question, then I'll get to the tree issue. So we use a structural engineer in the very beginning, and if you guys, I don't know if you have architectural drawings of the building or not, but our structural engineer will look at that, or if he isn't getting out your way, then we will have somebody else who can take a look at that. And then as far as just installation, we generally recommend, and so with it being a flat roof, yes, that needs to be looked at to make sure it can handle the weight of the panels. The TPO, if it's relatively new, then that should be fine.
What's TPO?
Yeah, what's TPO, please?
Oh, the white top, I'm guessing that you have, I can't remember what TPO stands for, but the white top, you have some kind of membrane up there, I think.
Yeah. Yes.
And so just the fact that the building's 50 years old doesn't mean that the roof can't support the weight of the panels. And it would be a cinder block system as well. So the engineer will look at that early on to make sure before any more commitment is made. You could hire your own engineer and ask, and then we would not include that as part of our pricing. And then as far as just for what Jack had said, when systems are installed, we recommend not installing if a roof needs replacement within 5 to 10 years. So because it's too much money to put it up, take it down, put it back up, it's just not worth the effort. So if the TPO, if the top is, if the covering is fairly new and the engineer says that the building's a go, then all should be well. And then the other question, I'm sorry, please tell me your other question again.
Trees.
Oh, trees. So our designer, Joe, we have, it's called Aurora, and it's the modeling that we use, and it is able to account for different shadowings and things like that. And so we know exactly what the shading is going to do to impact the panels, and it's not a problem.
Okay. Hold on just a sec. Jack, your hand is still up. Do you have another?
Yeah, no, I have to figure out how to get it down. Oh, I see.
And
Lower my hand.
Julie has a question.
So am I to understand that the blocks that you put down are going to be a protection on the roof in addition to the TPO?
TPO. So the panels offer, I guess, some sort of weatherization protection. I can't speak to how much, but the cinder blocks, we handle those very carefully. And we actually have a video where we were working with Temple Beth Orr to show how that works. I think most folks would be, or should be concerned that those cinder blocks would be handled properly so that it would not harm the TPO, the membrane on the roof. So I can send Ginny the video we did where it shows us bringing panels, bringing stuff up to the roof with the lift.
Well, my question is really, does it lengthen the life of the roof to have the cinder blocks on them? Is that?
No, I wouldn't think so, because so much of the roof is still not covered.
Just keeps them from blowing away.
What about squirrels?
That's true.
Squirrels?
Squirrels nesting under the panels?
Right. And so I'm just looking at this picture. It happens, and they can be a nuisance. And it looks like your trees are, I'm just looking at the picture right now that Joe used. you know, the trees, do you have squirrels on your roof? It looks like maybe they can get there. I can't really tell.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, we have,
Squirrels are gonna go anywhere they
Well,
want.
Yeah.
We had squirrels, I'm with this guy, and we had squirrels under our panels, and we had to cut all our trees away from our house to keep them
Which wasn't hard as it
from
sounds.
nesting under the panel. So that's why I asked if you have squirrel.
I don't think they can do
Abatements.
anything about the squirrels. I think that will be up to us.
Well, there's
according to Brent.
a ridge sort of, a
Fencing.
netting that you can put around the base of your panels to keep the squirrels from getting under there to
Slows them down.
nest.
Yeah, the squirrel guard. Yeah, so we had one client, golly, it was when I first came on, and the squirrels enjoyed his wiring a couple times. And so yes, the squirrel guard is an important part. I'm not sure what we're using at this point. You know, it hasn't been a big factor because often the trees are not right there next to the building. But there are remedies for that, and we can look at that and price that in.
Thank you, Laura. Any other questions from those gathering with us online or anybody in the room?
Yeah, I have,
All right, Daryl's got some questions.
oh, that's
Hold on.
okay.
I'm
I was
gonna-
willing to be the disembodied
No,
voice.
You don't get to do that.
Oh, yeah, there we are.
To talk that way towards the mic.
Okay. Here I am.
I didn't get it at first.
I have more questions than we have time, so I swear I'm actually reducing what I have written down. And you also, maybe this isn't the right venue for some of the questions I have, so I'll start with the first one. And if you say, oh, hell no, you need to talk to somebody else here, that's fine. So, but it's just the nature of what I do for a living. So does Eagle indemnify us for any damage to the roof or to the property or anything like that? More so, even if somebody falls off the roof, God forbid, are we indemnified for that? Or do you know what I'm talking about even when I say that?
So, and I'm guessing you're an attorney.
No, but I do contracts for a living and I know the law, and that's why I'm asking this.
Gotcha. So obviously we come with our own insurance, and our people are, you know, taken care of with us and our stuff. We're not going to be upset with you all or, you know, come after you if a mishap occurs. That's why we have our insurance, is my understanding.
Okay, thanks. Well, I got a couple of other ones. Does Eagle offer, as outrageous as this may sound, does Eagle offer any sort of guarantee on the savings?
We don't offer, well, sort of, kind of. We offer a production guarantee. So we guarantee that the panels will produce 80%. That then translates into savings.
Just a couple more, I swear. You've already answered that one, that's good. Oh, is service local, or do you guys have to come from Alabama every time we need something?
We're in Durham, so we come from Durham, and we also are opening in the beginning of December our Asheville office.
Sure.
And I swear this will be my last one, even though I have more. And I'm falling back on what I do for a living. I heard you mention the word termination earlier, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so do we have the right to terminate for cause as well as for convenience? In other words, if all the promises that are being made today by no fault of anybody's, and this is just a worst case scenario, none of it happens. And 30 days into the agreement, we realize everything that was promised isn't going to happen. I want St. Anne's to be able to walk away and say, okay, it was a great experiment. It didn't work. Let's do this with somebody else.
So in North Carolina, as you know, and you could speak to this better than I, you know, there's that 3-day rescission point. And then the way solar rolls out, like we wouldn't be doing anything in 30 days anyway. You know, if we fall on our end, we have all of that in our
pictures of yourself, there's headless shots, so it's just from the neck downwards.
Sorry, I'm gonna mute. There we go.
Okay. So there in our lease language, if you decided to lease, in our lease language, it spells out when both of us can walk away and what happens if, you know,
Okay,
Eagle Solar or the, you know, all of a sudden there are no more solar panels, or it doesn't say that, but it spells all that out in the lease language. And that is something I'm sure that, you know, your input on would be very appreciated. When we lease, we have our approach, our template, but we customize that with our partners every single time because everybody has a different place of emphasis. And so we're not dictators in how the process works. We want to address all of your concerns. And, you know, I think that if you have more, I'm happy to answer questions now, but that is spelled out in our lease and we can beef that up or modify it or whatever you need to do.
Laura, this is Jenny. Is it possible to get a sample contract that we can look over?
Yes,
All
happy
right.
to do that.
Email that to me
That's a
and
good idea.
send it out to the vestry later this week.
Yes, not a problem at all.
Wonderful. So my alarm just went off to tell me that we have a couple more minutes before class ends. I see that Alvy's hand is up and I want to invite Alvy to ask the question.
Good morning, everyone. I'm thankful for this presentation. It's been very informative, but we probably touched on it earlier and I may have just went over my head, but North Carolina, unfortunately, is known for having snowstorms that produce more ice than snow. So I'm just asking, what type of cost would it be to the church if, God forbid, that these panels get destroyed in some sort of fashion due to either winter weather, a storm, or anything? Like they just, you know, get damaged either minorly or beyond repair.
So that's a fantastic question. So the panels, if they were damaged in some immense hailstorm, and they're really strong panels, or ice, or some kind of craziness, then you all will have to put the system onto your insurance, and that we would help you move through that through the insurance for that type of a situation.
Oh, yeah, we don't own it. If we
Yeah,
don't own
we
it,
don't own it, so.
yeah. But you still, don't you still insure a leased car?
Just like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be part of
Yes.
the property insurance, yeah.
And so are these insurance costs factored into the payback period? The increase in insurance?
It's not clear that there would be, at least to me.
Yeah, I think usually it falls just under, like, our partners have had insurance policies where the panel installation just gets absorbed into that insurance coverage.
Our insurance coverage here.
I mean, our carrier can answer that question.
Yeah.
Friends, let me do this real quick. Thank you, Laura, so much for coming and walking us through this this presentation. And I have the information that Laura was using for St. Anne's, and I can post that on our website and send the link out via our email. And this video, this time together, has also been recorded, so I will also include that link in the email that goes out. But I just I don't know about you, but from where I'm sitting, it seems a lot more doable than I imagined about going solar. So the vestry will include this conversation as part of our meeting next week. And I see that Carmen has her hand up. So Carmen, you're muted.
Real quick, you might have said this, Jenny, but will we have a copy of her slides and the proposal?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I have all of that. Yeah.
Okay. And I might have trouble getting my hand down too, so I don't want to ask anything else.
So the first part of the video was a cut and paste from a video that Laura gave to our entire diocese. That's already on our YouTube channel for St. Anne's. I just have to make it public. I kept it private until this, so that those who watch it could have a chance to have a conversation about it. So all of that will go out in an email tomorrow. And when Laura gets a sample contract to me, I'll send that out to the vestry first so that they can look at it as part of our conversation as well. All right, friends, for those who have already worshiped with us, awesome. For those who are worshiping with us in person or online, I'll see you soon. And may God bless you. And Laura, thank you again for the amazing work that you do.
Oh, thank you all. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
And, it was an honor, and I look forward to talking with you more.
Great. Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.